Hi guys, well it's that time of year again where gamers gather from across the country in a hot stuffy hall and queue up for hours to play demos of new games that last all of 5 minutes. Yes, EGX was back, now in its 10th anniversary, and it was bigger than ever. Noticeably bigger than last year actually, covering many more halls. I went along to this year's show. This is just a quick roundup of some of the racing games that were playable. But we will go into more detail on some of them in future videos. Of course, one of the star attractions was Project Cars 2, having just been released. Do let us know how you're getting on with the game so far. It proved to be very popular. I went to the stand at different times of the day and there were always people playing it, so it's certainly becoming an established series. The PC version was being shown on this immersive curved display. And on the other side was the PS4 Pro version, which really showcased the superior performance over the standard consoles. The next major racing game release on the horizon is of course Forza Motorsport 7, which predictably attracted massive crowds. I think the average wait time was at least an hour. From what I could tell, there wasn't really anything new being shown. I think it was the same demo we saw back at E3, which you can now download on the Xbox Game Store anyway. But for many, this will have been the first time seeing the game running on Xbox One X. It was also the first time the new console was being shown to the public in the UK. Obviously, Forza will be a key launch title to take advantage of the more powerful hardware, and there's no doubting it looks incredible when you see it in motion running in native 4K and HDR. Screenshots just don't do it justice. The real star on the Forza stand though was the game's cover car. Here you can see the drool-worthy Porsche 911 GT2 RS on display. We saw this at the Geneva Motor Show a few months ago, but this was the first time I had seen it in the metal. It's the most powerful Porsche road car ever produced. It has a 0 to 60 time of 2.7 seconds. And its aggressive aerodynamic bodywork just gives it so much presence. Then there was Gran Turismo Sport. Again, we've seen it all before. It was being shown in the same cumbersome pods that just aren't very comfortable. Again, the queues were just simply too long to justify playing it when it's out in a few weeks. Once again, the demo featured Brands Hatch, but at least it was longer than one lap, unlike last year. I remember waiting for over an hour just to play it for about 2 minutes. GT Sport was also being shown off in VR in this very impressive giant mock-up of the PS4 headset. But unfortunately you had to book PSVR demos in advance, so I didn't get a chance to experience it. I expect a lot of people will have been disappointed being turned away who hadn't booked. Visually I'm sure it will be amazing and one of the better looking PSVR games out there, particularly on PS4 Pro. But it's a shame only a very limited portion of the game will be playable in VR. You can only race against one other car in VR events, but it's obviously a necessary setback because of the hardware limitations. Now I find some of the best surprises at EGX are some of the indie games in the Res section, and this was true this year as well. One game that caught my eye was Racing Apex, coming out next year to PC and consoles. We will be looking at this game in a bit more detail in an upcoming video and developer interview, but the best way to describe it is it mixes the visual style of Virtua Racing with the handling of Ridge Racer, with an emphasis on drifting. It mixes retro style graphics with modern physics to great effect. I found it to be a lot of fun once you get to grips with the handling and control the slides, and it seems to fill the current void of arcade style races very nicely. So definitely one to watch out for. Elsewhere, Mantis Burn Racing was being shown for the first time on Nintendo Switch, and I have to say this could potentially be my favourite version of the game yet. It's not a very visually demanding game, being a top-down racer, so it runs very smoothly, but it still looks great. The visuals look very nice and vibrant on the Nintendo Switch's 720p resolution screen. The original game also had great handling. It's always so satisfying to slide the car around corners, and this translates very well to a handheld system. I even remember saying to the developer last year how it would have really suited the PlayStation Vita, so it's great to see the Switch getting more third-party support. It wasn't just new games on display though. Over at the Retro Zone, there are a load of games that took you back to a time when TVs used to be the size of mini fridges. It's hard not to feel warm and nostalgic when you're surrounded by so many console generations in one place. This year there was a really broad selection of retro titles, including a small selection of driving games. Here you can see Daytona USA on the Sega Saturn. Probably not one of the best ports in the series history though. In fact, you're better off playing the Xbox 360 digital re-release, which is also backwards compatible on Xbox One. Speaking of ports, Crazy Taxi on the Dreamcast was a perfect port of the original arcade game on the Dreamcast. Since then it's been ported several times to newer consoles, but nothing compares to the original Dreamcast game. It's a shame the series is now just a shallow mobile game that doesn't require any skill, a bit like Ridge Racer and Driver. One of our highest rated games of the year so far is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, so it's good to see the original SNES game at the show. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the series, and the original still holds up today. It's a lot more challenging, I think, than some of the newer games. This was easily the highlight though. I stumbled across this deluxe Outrun arcade cabinet, which moves as you turn. I wasn't even born when this came out, so for people like me it was a good opportunity to experience it for the first time and pretend it was 1986 again. That's it though for this EGX 2017 racing game roundup, but we'll have more videos looking at a couple of the games at the show coming shortly.